Hello everybody and welcome to another beautiful day in Colorado. I'm Chase. That is the 2025 Toyota Camry Hybrid and this is the Overrun. Now, this may not be the most exciting and thrilling car ever, but the new Toyota Camry is very important. This one specifically is the hybrid, the XSE trim, which is the nicest Camry hybrid that you can get. There's a few trim levels below it, but what you need to know right now is that this car has been fully redesigned for the 2025 model year. That means new styling, a new interior, and under this hood here, some revised hybrid powertrains. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what the new Camry is and is not, and whether or not we think it's a decent hybrid passenger sedan. It's somewhat of a rarity in the market given the consumer preference for SUVs, so let's find out if there's even an argument to be made for it. Now let's talk pricing and powertrains. As I said, this 25 Camry has a revised set of hybrid powertrains. There is a front wheel drive option, which gets you the 2.5-liter 4-cylinder and a 0.6 kilowatt-hour electric battery pack mated to 2 electric motors. Or there is this one, the all-wheel drive model. It is the same 2.5-liter motor and battery pack, but with 3 electric motors. Now that bumps total combined output to 232 horsepower, which isn't so bad, but the torque figure is the real kicker. This produces a massive 378 pounds-feet of torque, which is ridiculous for a mid-ish sized to large passenger sedan. Now, let's also talk money, because of course it's a little bit more expensive as a result of that all-wheel drive system. Plus this one's got some options on it that I think that you need to know about. Let's start with our total MSRP, which is $43,720 as spec. Now the big option package on this car here is the premium package. It's almost certainly something that you're going to want if you're building and speccing a Camry yourself. Now that includes quite a long list of features, too many to memorize in fact. That means traffic jam assist, front cross emergency braking, the JBL premium audio system, rear parking assist, ventilated front seats, a 10-inch head-up display, there's digital key capability, traffic jam assist, front cross traffic alert, lanes change assist, panoramic view monitor, which is Toyota's surround view camera system. It's pretty much everything that you would want that makes this a relatively modern new car. And we'll get to a little bit more on what that does to the overall interior experience, because most of these are tech and interior features when we get to that segment a little bit later. Let's very quickly get the mid-sized elephant in the room out of the way, that meaning the Honda Accord. It's the Camry's main competitor and has been since I was in diapers and probably before. Both have been recently redesigned, both feature hybrid powertrains, optional all-wheel drive, similar cargo capacities, and overall a pretty similar user experience. So with that in mind, they're also priced very close to one another. The Honda Accord, as it sits in 2024, is priced at $28,990 to the Camry's $29,495. Now, Joby and I drove the Accord very, very briefly last year. We don't really have any drive impressions to offer you on the Accord as a result, and we're hoping to get that in later for a more direct comparison. But for now, let's focus on the Camry. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about design, right? There are new fascias front and rear. As you can see here, this has got a new grille on it, some new lights, and moving around the side, there are also some new wheel options for 2024. The side profile is changed a little bit as a result of the new look. There's a little bit more square nose at one end, and things are a little bit more angular at the back, which we'll get to in a moment. There's also this dual tone roof. This silver paint is optional, but there are thankfully some more interesting colors that you can get and some more interesting wheel options than those larger, I believe they are 20-inch wheels, 19-inch wheels. Around back, well, it's not too terrible. I kind of like the new fascia. I think it looks okay. There's a nice little set of dual exhausts down there because this is supposed to be a slightly sportier model. There's some new tail lights, and there's also this new bumper here, which you've seen. All in all, I think it's a pretty comprehensive design. I don't really have any complaints with it, but this also is not a segment where you're looking to just wow people with the way the car looks. Okay, let's kick off the interior segment with the back seats. These mid-size sedans are known for their ability to haul cargo and people, and this one looks to do it just as well as previous Camrys. I've put the front driver's seat roughly where I would be, well, exactly where I would be sitting, in fact, and I have plenty of leg room. As you can see, I even have some room to kind of extend my legs out a little bit. I can kind of lounge back. It's pretty comfy back here. These seats hold up pretty well. I wouldn't have a problem spending a few hours back here. Now, if you're a taller fellow or madam, you might have a problem here. There's a little bit less headroom as a result of partially this glass roof that runs to about here and the slightly sloped rear deck of the car. I don't have any problems getting in and out. I'm not gonna hit my head on the sill or anything, but I don't have a ton of room here, which is definitely something to note if you're gonna be driving around a bunch of tall people. Now, that aside, there are some very basic amenities back here. There's 2 climate vents, whoopee. There's also 2 USB ports. There's a USB-A and a USB-C that you can use to charge. There's also an armrest that folds down, and there's no real materials quality drop-off back here. Everything feels roughly at its price point. I have no real complaints about the interior space back here. There's room for pretty much everything. There's ISOFIX mounts for your kids, car seats, no problems. So let's take a look at the new interior up front. As you can see, there's a new steering wheel, new gauge clusters, new seats, new center console, the works. These are trimmed in a cool leather, which is kind of nice. And they're ventilated, but we'll get to more of that in a moment. Let's start first with these, with the new digital gauge cluster, whatever. Let's get that out of the way. This is Toyota's kind of corporate typical gauge cluster. You're able to move through a few different settings. Once it stops giving me warnings, I can adjust what's displayed in the center as well as what's displayed on the outer periphery and the gauges. I can cycle through a few different options, trip information, drive support. I can even leave it blank. I can see the all-wheel drive split, all of that. We're getting about 40 miles per gallon, as you can see, which is pretty good for a hybrid. We've been using it in EV mode mostly. Let's go ahead and move on to here, the new-ish infotainment screen. This will be mostly familiar to Toyota aficionados, but it's not too terrible. It's a nice new large screen. It's very responsive. As you can see, I'm able to click and drag through without any problems. I can get through a bunch of these menus. And there's no real lag in it. It's a pretty solid screen system. What I do appreciate about the new Camry, however, is this right here. That's right, physical climate controls. It's so nice. This one comes with ventilated seats, which is a part of that premium package. So is the JBL audio. You can see some of that branding there. Whoopee. It's certainly a lot nicer than the base Toyota infotainment system, so that's something worth knowing if you're a bit of an audiophile or you care about not having tinny sounding speakers. But back to the climate controls, there's ventilated and heated seats. This steering wheel is also heated, and they're pretty legible and easy to use. One weird little eccentricity here is there's a button for the wheel and you can set it to an auto function. It works pretty well, and I might even just consider leaving it like that. Now let's move on down here. There's also a wireless charger, as you can see. Nice. 3 USB ports right here, 2 USB-C and 1 USB-A. There's also these cup holders. You can see I've got a couple beverages in here for myself. And then down here is where you do your drive modes behind the shifter. There's an eco, normal, and sport drive mode. There's also a toggle for EV mode and the brake hold as well as the parking brake. New center console, pretty decently deep storage bin there, and really that's all there is to report. There's a new dash design, which I think looks pretty darn good. The screen kind of flows into it, which is nice, and these seats are pretty comfortable. They hold up well, and there's no real problems with these. They feature lumbar adjustment on this trim at least, and they do pretty good over long drives. And with that in mind, I think it's time to wrap up the interior segment and get to the rest of this car. Driving the 2025 Camry. Let's start with what I don't like. There's this driver aid thing right here. It's mounted on the steering wheel. What it does is it monitors the position of your head to make sure that you're paying attention. If you don't, it'll start to yell at you. However, if you kind of like to sit like this and drive like this, as some people do, you'll block the sensor. It's already given me a notification, driver monitor unavailable, see owner's manual. That will continue to happen and get worse if you don't move your arm, or if you naturally kind of don't rotate your arm around enough as you're driving. Eventually it's going to start yelling at you, which is something to note. The other thing that I dislike is, well, actually, really, there's not a lot. I have a minor complaint with the engagement of the 4-cylinder engine in that it's just a little bit jarring to hear in contrast with the otherwise totally silent cruising that you get from the car when its battery is in use. So that's something to note. If that bothers you, you can hear it, but thankfully you don't feel it. The engagement of the 4-cylinder powertrain is very, very smooth. You won't notice it. There's no like buck or kick when the 4-cylinder comes in. It's super smooth and refined. If you were wearing earplugs, you wouldn't even know that the car had switched to its gas powertrain. That's how smooth it is. So it's a really smooth, nice driving experience that also extends to the ride, which is fantastic. It can be a little bit on the stiff side over some bumpier roads, but it's really not too terrible otherwise. A final complaint: this car's EV mode does what most cars like this, or most hybrids like this, do with their fully electric mode. If you depress the throttle past a certain point, it fires up the full powertrain, and that kind of annoys me. I would rather it not do that and, for example, like neuter the car's acceleration before it does that. If I want to cruise until the battery is empty, just let me cruise until the battery is totally empty. Now, that notwithstanding, the driver aids in here are really great. Yes, there is some content that is locked behind that premium package. A lot of the nicer interior stuff, the JBL sound system, which I think is very much worth getting, that's all locked behind some options, and you can kind of pick through them a la carte, but it's not that big of a deal. Other than that, this is a very, very nice driving car. I think that the updates are largely worth it, and we're going to get more to whether or not this is worth your money in the conclusion. So what do we think of the redesigned Camry? Well, it's still a Camry. It still does everything that I want the Toyota Camry to do. It's got a nice big trunk. It has good big back seats. It's got nice tech. It's safe. It gets great fuel economy. It's quiet on the inside. It's nice to drive. It doesn't bug you all the time with various driver aids, that little armresty thing I told you about notwithstanding. It's a really nice improvement on what has proven to be a really long-lasting formula. Is it going to be better or more popular than some crossovers or SUVs? Well, that's hard to say, but all I can tell you is that I personally really like it. Would I spend $40,000 odd on this one? No, probably not. I would probably try and stay closer to the $35,000 mark. That's probably where this car's real sweet spot is. The LE trim with all-wheel drive would probably be my pick, but as far as seeing everything the Camry has to offer, this XSE trim has been very good to us. I like it a lot, and I think it's definitely worth looking into. Now, hopefully we'll be able to contrast this with the Honda Accord later, but for now, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Now, I got to give you the spiel. I would love it if you guys are able to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell, the YouTube SEO trifecta. That helps us out, that helps us keep getting cars, keep making videos, and keep getting better at this. So thank you so much for that opportunity. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.